point Damon to stop being scared and tell us what kind of truck he got. And it better be a truck and not a minivan. Moving forward. All right. Very important to me. And the title of it would be Honor the Rebel Ancestors. Why do I say the rebel ancestors? Well, let's be honest, you Africans. We had some ancestors that was house niggas. We had some ancestors that contributed to maintenance of white supremacy. It's just like we have some Negroes today that still do. We had some ancestors that folded, that looked at the odds and just gave up and decided to shuck and jive and kowtow and bow down and just comply with the system. And so we did have some of those people in our lineage. Not me. It's not one in my bloodline. Trust me, I know. It may be in yours, but not mine. Everybody in my family is a rebel. So I know my ancestors had to be rebels. Anyway, rebel is not a bad thing because if you're not going to rebel, you might as well die. Because if you're just going to be complacent and go along with exactly what you know is killing you, and this is true on every level, from a personal level all the way to a political, economic level. If you're just going to go along with exactly what's killing you, and you're going to submit to it and help to maintain it, shit, you might as well be dead. You're not a rebel. But if you decide to come back, if you decide to find a way to somehow, and I'm not saying you have to do something amazing. I'm not saying it would be amazing. Anything you did in an act of rebellion against your master and the system of slavery in America. And I'm just saying, it's any oppressor anywhere in the world. It's normally the European. But any small thing you do in rebellion, you will get a blessing. It's a beautiful thing. Any small thing you do. Well, what do you mean? I'm not saying you have to be like Nat Turner and organize a whole damn rebellion, a whole insurrection. That would be nice. But what I'm telling you is that it's something that even the other enslaved prisoners of war, I don't like to call our ancestors slaves because they were captured in a war upon the African continent that has been perpetrated for hundreds and thousands of years. They were bought here as a part of that war. And I don't refer to them as slaves. They were captured prisoners of war, and they never stopped fighting, and they still have it. Now, that's what I was going to say. You're not saying you have to plot a whole revolution like Nat Turner or Gabriel Prosper, but I'm saying it's something that the other enslaved prisoners of war did on those plantations to rebel. Some of them would break the tools so none of the work could get done. Some of them would poison their masters. Some of them would run away. Some of them would teach other black people how to read, which could get you killed. But they found some way, just some way, no matter how small it might look to you, having the goddamn guts to fight and rebel against what's killing you, that's a good trait. That's a good characteristic. That ought to be commended. That ought to be admired. I do not honor none of. If it was somebody in my lineage going generations back who just sat there and said, look, I'm a slave. My children are going to be slaves. My grandchildren are going to be slaves. So I might as well just get the best seat I can get at the table and go along with the system, right? Try to get as comfortable as I can get because this is all, it's nothing going to be. Anyone that said that is not my ancestor. They can go to hell. I don't want them, please cross their name out of the books that lead to me. Do you feel me? I can't believe it. Well, I can't believe it. We're going to get to that today. So, under the rebel ancestors, not all of them, not any old ancestor. Shit, nigga, what? If you look at the, I was studying 3 rebellions this week, Nat Turner, Gabriel Prosper, and Denmark Vesey. And every single one of them, the reason the rebellion got caught at the planning stage or didn't reach the fullest of its potential, in every single case it was because another black person or mulatto ratted out the revolutionary. I'm giving you actual facts. You go look at 3 of our biggest slave rebellions, plant revolts that we had in America. Gabriel Prosper, Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey. In every case, those rebellions were ruined by ancestors who weren't rebels. You gotta be a hard-headed rebel. Do you hear me? This word the big bird. Anyway, how do you honor your rebel ancestors? You got to show just a bit of the character, just a bit of the strength. You hear me? Just a bit of the guts that they had, and they demonstrated it. It's not so bad for us. Imagine this. I'm gonna give you a great look at some of the things that our ancestors went up against, and how the hard-headed, rebellious slaves looked at these odds, looked at these atrocities, looked at what they stood to lose. Do you hear me? Which was everything, and still decided, I'm not going to go along with this system. I'm going to find a way to rebel. Let's go through a few of the tactics, a few of the most extreme, not all of them. I could not list them all. That'd be a whole nother discussion. But listen to me now. Check this out. Let's go through a few examples of what the hard-headed blacks looked at and still turned their nose up at it and said, I'm going to find a way to rebel anyway. Number one on my list. If you want to see the devil of Satan, how sick he is, and understand the mind he has, what our ancestors went up against, and what we still facing today, you don't need to look no further than what they did to Nat Turner's body after they caught him. Check this out. Couldn't think of this if I had 9 hours. When they got Nat Turner, they paraded him through the town, lynched him publicly. They had already killed a bunch of his associates. Most of them probably didn't even have nothing to do with the rebellion. But after they lynched him, they cut up his body. They made it into different souvenirs, put it in different jars, an ear, a hair, a finger. There ain't no telling what they did with his penis, because they were infatuated with the penis of a black man. And then they sold these different body parts as souvenirs, and there's body parts of Nat Turner sitting up in the basements, attics, and maybe even on the dining room table of Europeans today in America. Do you hear me? Who could think of it? That's sick. If they can do that, imagine what they can come up with. Let's go to another one. On these plantations, our men had to live with the fact, the law, the reality, that they, master can come in there, right? Hey, you want to be rebellious? Your master can come in there, right? Take your wife, take your woman, and he can go rape her. It's not rape. I misspoke. It's not rape, because no slave had a right to bring a claim or be a victim in the court because they were property. So if you want to rebel, black man, if you want to do anything, out of line, not only could you lose your life and things of that nature, I could take your wife. If you see the scene in Birth of a Nation where they took the guy's wife, the slave master had company over him. One of his friends was particularly interested in one of the prisoners of war women that he had back there. And that woman's husband begged and pleaded with him he begged and pleaded with the master not to give his woman away to that man. And he did it anyway, because he didn't have any right? So these are the things that our ancestors was up against. This is what they faced. These are the odds. If you want to rebel, I will give your wife, I'll rape her myself, or I can pass her around like a toy. Do you hear me? For real, for real. Let's go to work. Now, I'm going to jump to one that I really can't get over. And I want y'all to Google this. The so-called father of gynecology. His name is James Sims. Do you hear me? This has got to be the most phenomenal example of a sadistic, power-crazed, heartless European that you could ever think of. Not only did this European so-called doctor, not only did he experimented on his female prisoners of war, supposedly to find cures to different ailments that were of concern to white women. Check this out now. So he would experiment on the private parts, the vagina, ovaries, all the woman's female anatomy. Cut on these women, operate on these women, practice, play, if you call it that, without anesthesia. Do you hear me? There was one young lady that he experimented on 17 different times, never gave her any anesthesia. Can you imagine the suffering of those women? Can you imagine your private anatomy being cut on and sawed on, sewed up and cut apart and halfway in and open it up? And you get no drugs and no medicine because the common belief was that black people don't feel pain. Do you see the kind of things that we were up against? Right? And some of those prisoners of war, some of our ancestors whose blood still runs in our veins, some of them said, I know, I see that you will lynch me, dismember me, and possibly do it to my kids. I know what you're capable of. And I'm still going to rebel. That's magnificent. That got to be the greatest. That's like Jesus. No, you're going to die. No, this is going to be painful. This is going to be excruciating. But it's better than bowing down and submitting. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Anyhow, moving forward. So I want you to go look at James Sims. And worse, I ain't going to say worse because how can you be more evil than evil? You're just both evil. But here's another example. He even experimented on the skulls of enslaved prisoners of war, infants, babies. Do you hear me? I'm giving you the actual facts. All right? I'm giving you the facts, and then you can go do with it what you may. I'm going to tell you what I did with it, though. Let's go to work. He would take these babies, and there's a tool that shoemakers use called an awl. He would use these tools to break open, do you hear me? The skulls of enslaved prisoner of war infants, doing an experiment to cure some disease that was of major interest to European Americans at the time. You got to be crazy. Somebody has really got to explain to me how you can operate, bust open the skull of an infant baby, God damn it, and not go crazy, vomit, throw up. It's how you live with yourself. Got to be confusing. You got to listen. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, I was about to say something stupid and say I don't want to get political, and everything I say is political. But I read a case in law school, which is why I hate abortion to this day. They were doing these late-term abortions, and if you read the Supreme Court case, it was so egregious what they were doing. I hate abortion to this day. Now, shout out to Deontay Wilder. The late-term abortion, they have a tool. It's kind of like a plunger, kind of like some pliers, where they try to suck the infant out, right? Do you hear me? Out of the woman's womb, you got to feel me. And then sucking the fetus out, sometimes it breaks into different. Before they suck the fetus out, though, they can stick a thing into the woman and crack the baby's neck. They crack his spine. That's how they make sure it's dead before they start sucking it out. And then, so they stick a tool in the woman, crack his neck. You got to be sick to do it. I don't give a damn if you put Democrat, Republican, or Taliban. You got to be sick to do it. Shit. That's word up. Anyhow, you break his spine right at the base of the skull, and you start to suck him out. But sometimes the fetus falls apart. It tears apart as it's being sucked out of his mother's womb. So you got to suck it out piece by piece, an arm here, a leg there, a hand there. You got to be fucking crazy. Okay, and then once you do that, some of the stuff still might get left in there. There's cases where the woman done got an infection because they did the late-term abortion and left bits of the baby in her body. God damn it, you got to be kidding me. All right. Now that was just almost as bad as James Sims, and we do that every day. Anyway, the ancestors that looked at these insurmountable so-called odds. I remember Malcolm X said in one of his speeches, it was either Ballad of the Bullets or Message to the Grassroots or one of them. He said, don't come telling us about odds. We don't care about anything about odds. I'm talking about a rebel. He said, we don't care anything about odds. You didn't tell us about odds when you take us across the water to fight in countries against millions and millions of foreigners that done nothing to us. You don't tell us about the odds then. right? So don't tell us about the odds now, right at home. Do you feel me? I'm talking about a rebel. Let's go to work. So now, in order to look at the odds that they were facing, in order to see it and still refuse to give in at their core, these would have to have been what the old folks call hard-headed black people. What's hard-headed? Well, when old folks said, they said, this is, you just don't learn. No matter what, you'll keep going back. We told you don't do it. Do you feel me? And you do it anyway. And you keep going back. And you're not gonna stop. So we might as well deal with it. Do you hear me? That's what hard-headed meant for the previous generation. But I'm gonna tell you what I mean when I say hard-headed, because you can be hard-headed for a good cause. You can be hard-headed in a good way. Do you feel me? So from now on, whenever I talk, I'm gonna talk with clear definitions. This is my definition of a hard-headed black man. You can apply this to a 1 and 2, but I normally speak mostly to the man, because when we get right and start back leading and fighting like we supposed to, shit, that's when we got a chance. Right now, we ain't really moving too much. Let's go to work. Hard-headed black man, one that not only refuses to quit or give up in any struggle, conflict, or battle, but actually enjoys the fight, win or lose. That's a hard-headed individual. And my children are hard-headed. I seen some fall, hit the ground. They was trying to do some cheerleading stuff. And and I'm giving you a direct quote. She said, "Oh, that hurt. Come on, let's do it again." What in the hell? But if she stopped just because it hurt, they would never get that move mastered, perfected. So you got to be kind of hard-headed to get the perfection, to get to the goal. Do you hear me? Let's go to work. Enjoys the fight. Some people go through a trial in their life and you suffer your way through. You be down. You go and you got to move. You're trying to get through the conflict, but you're just sad and you're suffering your way through, just hoping for it at the end. Some people get in some shit and fight their way out and actually enjoy the fight. They enjoy the struggle. Shit, they could be right there where it's tough, where it's rough, and still find a way to enjoy it. I'm talking about a hard-headed person. They're just not gonna quit. All right. The hard-headed black man is so dedicated to his main objective that he often views formal rules as mere obstacles to be circumvented when necessary. What do I mean by that? When the game is already set up for you to lose and all the rules are put in a way to make sure you never win, and you gotta adhere to so many different formalities and so much red tape and bureaucracy. This motherfucker, you're never gonna get nowhere by trying to stick to these rules in a strict way. You got to feel me on this one. A hard-headed person look at that and say, okay, I want to accomplish this. I want to build this. They say, well, you got to get improvement here. You got to do that. Hey, these are obstacles. Shit, I'll try it by the book. Do you hear me? Do the application like they say. If not, I'm going to find another way to get this done. The real old blacks will tell you there's more than one way to skin a cat. And sometimes you got to bend the rules. Jesus did it. He was in the temple, turned over the tables and started beating up the Pharisees. So, hey, the scribes and the Pharisees. So if Jesus can bend the rules sometimes to get to the greater good, so can you. Amen. Let's go to work. All right. Make sure I read y'all that whole definition. Oh, yeah. Last but not least, the hard-headed black man is hated, feared, and admired for his spiritual, intellectual, and physical ability to dominate and win. The slave owners and the blacks who wanted to help maintain that system because they were okay in it, they hated the hard-headed slaves because they said, look, you got to get us in trouble. They hated the rebels because they said, look, I'm comfortable in my position. You might cause me to lose. I don't want to mess this up. They hated them and they feared them. Oh, good God, they feared. Can you imagine how scared they was in that time? I'm talking about not only the plantation owners, I'm talking about the Sambo prisoners of war on those plantations. Probably some of his family members. Robert F. Williams, that's another hard-head black man right there. Go Google Robert F. Williams. You can't be inspired by your ancestors if you don't know nothing about them. And if the plantation owner was that hell bent on keeping us from reading and knowing how to read, that ought to be motivation for your ass to get up and read something every day. That ought to be motivation enough for you to go do some studying. So I don't have to explain everything over and over again. All right. They hated and feared, but they also admired. Don't nobody admire. I'm giving you actual facts. Who would you admire more? Who would you admire more? Give me an example of a hard-headed black man. Mike Tyson. Oh, he's admired. Yeah, he's feared. Yes, he's hated. But you better know he's admired and he's respected. Now, give me an example of a wimp-ass black man. Andrew Gillum, the Gillamite. Whenever you hear me use the word Gillamite, I'm talking about Andrew Gillum. And if you don't know who that is, y'all need to go Google Andrew Gillum in Florida. He was almost our governor. They were prepping him to be the next Barack Obama. And by Barack Obama, I mean well-groomed, well-controlled, refined, feminine, easily handled blackface to champion liberal, gender fluidist, rainbow politics. Gillamite. And had Andrew Gillum not been caught in that hotel room, passed out on drugs after performing who knows how many, what kind of sexual acts with European male prostitutes, had he not gotten caught, and you got the pictures of him laying on the floor there, that might be our governor now and our future president. So when I say Gillamite, nobody admires it. No real black man or black boy admires a Gillamite. And that's the bottom line, because I said so. Now, all right, so I gave you a definition of a hard-headed black man. Oh, yeah, they're often stubborn, aggressive, and all too willing to take dangerous risks. Yeah, it's a risky business. Don't never let nobody tell you that being a revolutionary or being actively focused on black people, specifically your own people, right? And doing concrete, real tangible things to empower them politically, economically, socially, culturally, spiritually. Hey, don't let nobody tell you that that's going to be easy and come without risk. It could cost you a lot, but it won't cost you more than what Harriet Tubman was facing. Shit, come on, man. Any period in our history where we had to deal with the European, if you decided to stand up to him and not bow down and be a slave, then you face great risk. Ooh, terrible risk. And I'm talking about from then to now. Okay? You think Huey Newton didn't have no fear? You think Huey Newton wasn't facing, at all concerned about what he was facing? Man, they had all the Panthers wrapped up in charges, if not assassinated. And they kept going. Do you hear me? How dare you say, oh, I would do something for my people. I would speak up. I would take a stand. I would do something, but I might get fired. Oh, I don't want my daughters to get picked on at school. I don't want to be too controversial. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Fuck they feathers. Shit, they ruffled mine. Word to the bird. So, in closing this off, I just want to give you a message that you need to think about your ancestors and try to do something. Keyword, do, not just talk. And I'm giving you the actual facts. We got too many talking heads. We got too many influencers. We got too many motherfucking speech givers that are not doing any practical, tangible, boots on the ground work. I'm giving you facts. And you just got to look at them. And you just be honest with yourself and say, this person done 5,700,000 lectures. How many black people's lives have he actually impacted? What has he actually done to bust a hole in this pipeline of prison? What has he actually done to teach black people to get their own businesses, their own land? Does this person even run a fucking business other than just talking? I mean, how many lectures can we have before we do something? Like come up with a plan, put it into effect, and have some results. I'm talking about science. Okay? I can point you to the science. I can point you to the work, the well-documented work that we've done with BPM and still continue to do. But most of the people that you listen to can't. Shit, I'm for real. And those are the absolute facts. So I'm gonna give y'all some names to go research. These are some hard-headed black men, and I put a hard-headed black woman in there too, so they won't say I'm a chauvinist. Cause I'm not a chauvinist. I just know that a man is supposed to be a man and a woman is supposed to be a woman. Even Donald Trump know that. Oh man, it's gonna work. All right, I want y'all to, if you have time and you care about your ancestors or want to learn more, I'm going to give you some hard-headed blacks that you ought to go research, read about, and emulate. Not to the fullest extent of what they did, because everybody they cut out for that. But you'll see, they went up against odds and they didn't back down, shut their mouth, kowtow, buck dance, or be complacent or compliant. I'm giving you the actual facts. George Jackson, founder of the Black Guerrilla family. If you don't know about George, all I'm going to tell you now is that anybody committed enough to their cause to do 7 to 10 years in solitary confinement, not break, not fold, and still continue to organize, teach, and build. And I'm telling you right now, some of y'all can't even organize or get nothing going out here fully free with some discretionary funds and time on your hands, and you still can't get nothing organized. This man did it behind the gates where white supremacy is most overt. Do you hear me? White supremacist prison gangs, Mexican prison gangs, the whole power structure against him, he was still able to get more done than most of y'all can in a lifetime. You got to be kidding me. That's a hard head. He knew what he was facing. He knew what was going to happen and still kept going. Dr. Khalid Muhammad. If you ain't studied Dr. Khalid Muhammad, don't be walking around here and talk about you conscious. That's probably the last great real boots on the ground revolutionary we done had in a long damn time. H. Rap Brown. If you don't know H. Rap, that was a bad man. You ought to read his book, Die Nigger Die. Fred Hampton. This brother right here, who they assassinated in his bed with his pregnant woman, he knew these pigs was coming. He knew it was going to happen. It wasn't the first time. He had been incarcerated, but he couldn't stop. I'm talking about a hard-headed black man. Well, what about a hard-headed black woman? I want you to go research Ida B. Wells. Her investigative journalism to put lynching, she put lynching on the forefront on the global stage, not just in America. And she knew her life was in jeopardy. Hell, she was running a business, which is part of the reason for a lot of the white uprisings and burnings and lynchings in the South and across the country during that time, because black people started to compete and out-compete them in business, and they didn't like that, and they couldn't do it better, so they resorted to terrorism, and that's just what it was. But that didn't stop Ida B. Wells. I believe she even had to move out her state. She still didn't stop fighting against lynching. And last but not least, one really hard-headed black person that I'm really becoming enthralled with the more I read is Gabriel Prosser. I did not know this rebellious, hard-headed Negro, while still enslaved, before he was even plotting a rebellion, actually tried, for lack of a better word, rob a European, got into a fight with the European, beat him up, and actually bit off his ear, like some Mike Tyson type stuff. I mean, this was a hard-headed, rebellious individual, because you couldn't put your hands on a European in those days and expect to live to tell the story. Hell no. What kind of hard-headed individual was this? A magnificent one. So if you feel like it, I think you should go look at those 6 people, right? Just to start. I mean, just to start, because we have so many more. I could go on for days and days. But anyway, the moral of the story is this. Black people ain't never got nowhere by being conformists, complacent, nice, and following all the goddamn rules. You get your head blown off just like Martin Luther King Jr. did. Nice and smooth. Turn the other cheek. guy in America. Or ain't nothing more harmless than little innocent girls at church, little innocent girls at church on the porch after Sunday school. What could be more innocent than that? You think that'll get you a pass? Hell no. They blew those 4 girls up in Alabama. Men, women, and children can get it from the white supremacists. It doesn't matter. So how you gonna play a game like that with one hand tied behind your back, talking about you don't want to offend nobody and you don't want to be, you're gonna talk your way out this shit. You're gonna logic your way out this shit. Shit. You think those little girls could argue their way back to life? You think they could argue those Europeans not to blow that church up with them sitting? You think they could moralize that? Hell no. You're gonna have to do something. I'm giving you the actual facts. And I'm not telling nobody they do nothing crazy. Half of y'all scared as hell just to say something. But there's a way that you can find to impact your people and to make a real contribution to our liberation and our independence. And I'm not talking about liberation in the sense of integration. Shit, I don't want to get started on that, but I'm going to say it like this. We ain't never got nowhere about trying to join hands with other groups and take on their goddamn causes. When Nat Turner was planning his rebellion, I don't think he checked in with the rainbow community on the plantation and said, by the way, we about to rebel to liberate our people. You know, we want to live on our own and be independent. What do you want me to do as far as gay rights? Come on, man. Hey, we want to make sure, we got to make sure that men who believe that they're women can use the girls' bathroom. We ain't even got time to talk about no shit like that. We want to make sure that boys who want to be girls can go run track against the actual girls. You mean to tell me that we in America, where I just seen European white supremacist police officers, I believe it was in Mississippi, they went in there and did a torture campaign, terror campaign. They were waterboarding these 2 unarmed black males, tie them to the bed, make them get naked, take showers together, make them get on their knees and waterboard them, pretend like they're about to shoot them like a mock execution. And they carried that on, called in extra officers to come in and participate in the melee. Officers from other counties done showed up to take part in the torture. Shot one of the brothers right in the mouth and left him there. You got to be kidding me. Left him there to die. Right? That's what we're dealing with today. This didn't happen 10 years ago or 5 years ago. I'm talking about this happened now. And you got to tell me you don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers, that we got to be real nice. And if we just join hands with the illegal immigrants and the gender fluidists, that we could get some the fuck is cop reform? How you going to reform white supremacists? That's like saying we want slave master reform. Oh, you want to get rid of the plantations and get rid of the system of slavery? No, we just want to send the master system to some cultural competency courses so he can better understand our plight as prisoners of war working his plantation, and maybe we can get a better position. You know, we can have some, he only whips us 45 times a day because 55 is too much. I'm not talking about concessions. I'm talking about this has got to be it's got to be a total change. Well, seems like that's a long shot. It was a long shot for all of our ancestors. So stop making excuses. When you wake up, you said when you wake up, your first thought ought to be about God. You need to pray. Good. That's right. And God is your ancestor if you're a black person, because God was a black man. Jesus, a black African. Moses, black African. Do you feel me? You don't think that's your bloodline? Well, maybe some of y'all come from Doubting Thomas and Judas. Yeah, you come from Judas. You come from the bloodlines of Judas. Yeah, you come from Judas. I come from Samson. I come from David. Do you hear me? Shit, I wake up. Hey, I'm just trying to tell you. These are all black people we're talking about. But your ancestors might have been the Judas type. Who you come from? What's your bloodline? Anyway, that's all I got to damn say today. But I pray that you'll wake up in the morning and be a hard head. Amen. Be hard headed. If somebody tell you can't do something, if somebody tells you you're too this or you're too that or you're not enough this or you're not enough that, and then you go do it anyway. Damn it. Be hard headed. Don't listen to them. Be a hard headed rebel. Be a rebel slave. Don't be the ones that went away comfortably. You hear me? Be a rebel slave. Don't be no kind of slave. A rebel prisoner of war. All right? And when you do that, hey, good God Almighty, you'll make God proud. And that's all I got to say. BPM for life. I see no end. Straight black pride. Be hard headed. Let's go to work.